Welcome back to Scene Invaders. My name is Tanner, and today we're going to be talking about It. Welcome to Derry, and now you see it. Let's hit the ground running here. We are in 1908, and we're following a young boy walking around a old-timey carnival. And I'm just going to call this right off the bat. I don't think this is Pennywise, It, the entities, Little Hunting Ground. If that was the case, this kid would have never have made it out of that creepy tent where he meets the Skeleton Man. The Skeleton Man, absolutely terrifying. This guy would haunt my nightmares too. Francis's father, a Teddy Roosevelt lookalike, finds his son, calls him a sissy, gives him a slingshot. They leave. As they're driving back, the camera shows us the license plate 67I9. I'm not really sure the meaning behind that, but I do believe that Stephen King's first published short story that he was paid for was in 1967. No clue what the I-9 could be. If anyone else has any ideas or theories, please put them in the comments below. As Francis and his father are driving back in their Model T, the vehicle breaks down. See some indigenous children. They have water. That's what Francis's dad needs to get the car going. Francis runs off to play with some kids. Now, that forest is a no-go zone. All the children there recognize it. Rose even points it out. Spoiler, the young girl's Rose. No, don't go in there. Who would let their kids play so close to the haunted monster forest? Right? Like, if you have 8, 9, 10-year-olds, you're not really going to let them play down by a river by themselves, let alone the forest where an unspeakable ancient evil that's been stalking your tribe for hundreds, if not thousands of years resides. Parental supervision just wasn't really there. So Francis runs into the woods and, surprise, surprise, it is there. It finds him. I think we all saw that coming. And it used his recent acquired fear of the skeleton, broken bone man, whatever you want to call him, to terrify the pants off of him. Now, I liked how it was popping around trees. You never knew where it was going to come from. Pretty interesting. It was a neat concept. I thought they would use that a little bit more, possibly as a way to chase and scare Francis. And this is the first episode where I'm going to say it, the CGI, not that strong. And it kind of took me out of the moment. I felt often as if I was watching an episode of Goosebumps or a CW-inspired It horror theme show. Not as strong as it has previously been in episode 1 and 2. I think a better use of that creature, instead of turning it into some sort of spider-like Wendigo monster that would chase him down, is have it continuously pop out from behind trees trying to grab him as he runs away. I think this would have been a less is more situation to avoid that subpar CGI. Grabs the kid, he has Francis, then he gets the rock to the eye from the slingshot. Still a serviceable scene for what it needs to be. This is establishing the backstory of two characters who we go on to find out are actually Rose and General Shaw. So I thought this was really clever. You could tie in the slingshot to later scenes with Dick Hallorann, a relationship between Rose and General Shaw, introduce the effect, to those that are unaware of it, of the town erasing people's memory. It also, I'm happy to say, gave us some backstory and development on the character of Rose, which I honestly didn't think we were going to get any of that. So thanks for proving me wrong, team of screenwriters. So they escape from the forest, and Francis then brings up the same question that we've all been asking forever.
Why can't it leave the woods?
Well, actually, that's none of your business.
Why is there a line? Why is it stuck there? Why can't it go past a certain area? Which I hope we find out in the rest of the season. But I think that it, the entity Pennywise, is stuck in the geographical confines of that Derry area, the forest surrounding the area, simply because the core of its essence, the Deadlights, are in Derry. If you have any other ideas or thoughts, please put them below. All right, guys, so I want to touch on the opening credits scene, this part in particular, where we see the explosion, the mushroom cloud explosion, as we're moving out. You can see it right there. That is a clown. That's Pennywise. Yeah, I know the balloon has been pointed out before on other channels, but that's Pennywise, and that's a turtle. That is a turtle right there. And as you slowly go out, before it becomes a fully formed mushroom cloud, looks kind of like a brain. And where Pennywise's image was, seems to be where the amygdala is. It's kind of sort of in that area, as if Pennywise inhabits the fear center of your brain. So, really interesting art style and choice. I love that you can still find these little hidden clues and Easter eggs. So now we're over in jail with Ronnie's dad and Chief Bowers. Bowers. Chief Bowers does some pretty clever police work, goes in, starts a rapport, brings up some cigarettes, offering them to Ronnie's dad. He states that he's not a fan of that. He likes another particular brand of smokes, which then Chief pulls up out of his pocket.
Got your ass.
Saying that they found those smokes near a scene where a witness described seeing Ronnie's dad. He's a little taken aback, so judging by the look on Hank's face, he is definitely keeping secrets. It's kind of the same guess, just from two different angles. He has seen someone. He has secretly seen someone, and it's either a interracial relationship,
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
where he is secretly dating a white woman, or he is secretly seeing a man.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. Not at all.
Colonel Fuller and General Shaw, they're discussing the entity and the previous Bradley Gang massacre. I didn't think we'd ever get more information on the Bradley Gang incident in this season. I know that they're saving it for a second season. We also find out that General Shaw and Colonel Fuller are aware somewhat of the entity, that it works in cycles, that it targets people, that it can induce fear, and they are looking for ways to control it. We also find out that the Bradley Gang vehicle is not really the keystone piece that they're looking for, and that what they're looking for was
Buried in Derry 300 years before the automobile was even invented.
something else I just want to add. I wasn't really a big fan of how quickly Lily got out of Juniper Hill. I really felt that they did a lot of setup to get her there, and then not really much of a payoff. Perhaps it was done in order to introduce this character for a later payoff. It's even possible that this lady here might be the girl clown in the opening scene that looked like Pennywise.
Jump to conclusions.
I don't know why they would introduce this lady unless they were going to have her play more of a prominent role in later episodes. If Lily doesn't go back to Juniper Hill, this will be a weird meandering from the first and second episode where they seem to be gearing her up to go to Juniper Hill in order to deal with that environment. So hopefully she goes back there. Foreshadowing.
I got a buddy at Fort Bragg who's saying that they're doing like mind control on goats.
So this is a reference to the goat lab that was at Fort Bragg. Now, I know that it was more prominent in the 70s and 80s, but Fort Bragg did also do LSD experimentation back in the mid to late 50s. So it's possible that they were also looking into the psychic development program that was going on later in the 70s and 80s, happening a little bit earlier, but this is what that is in reference to. Famously, there was a book and movie, The Men Who Stare at Goats, that was made about those experiments. Now, if you really want to deep dive into this stuff, what you should do is look up Lieutenant Colonel Jim Shannon. Shannon? Yeah, I think it's Shannon. So this guy had proposed the creation of a First Earth battalion with all sorts of new age, zany, ginseng-powered abilities. Might have been nuts, but Dick Hallorann is demonstrating the exact type of abilities that the projects at Fort Bragg were trying to create or do or utilize. So I really thought that was an interesting connection. So Dick Hallorann seems to be using what's known as remote viewing in order to peer into Pennywise's lair, using the slingshot as a kind of guiding rod to show him the way. And then we are once again shown the big giant mound of bodies that we saw in It Chapter 2. And I will be frank with you guys, this thing has existed on our plane of existence for, what, a million years? Definitely for the entirety of human existence. I was expecting a lot more bodies.
3 or 4 times, maybe.
I'm gonna pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
Pennywise is caught off guard, and then we get this.
Are you?
Woo! That is Skarsgård's voice right there. Absolute chills. And then we get the entity reading Dick Hallorann's mind, trying to like he's outshining the Shine Master right now. And we get flashbacks of what appears to be Dick Hallorann in combat in Korea. And then the specter of his grandma tells him to get out. He almost walks off of a helicopter if it wasn't for Major Hanlon stopping him. We can add remote viewing to Dick Hallorann's psychic repertoire. So telepathy, remote viewing. Unfortunately, he doesn't have the ability to foresee his own death by axed. Spoiler alert. However, The Shining's been out for decades. You guys had enough time to watch it. Go watch The Shining. I'll wait. I'll wait here for you. More foreshadowing. So that kid at the beginning was in fact General Francis, and as I was watching this episode, I just went, it didn't occur to me. It did not occur to me that that would be him. The young native girl, I thought like, okay, this is Rose. But the fact that that was Francis, that these two have a history together, like that is just primo writing right there. That they were able to add this character, add this backstory, and I didn't see it coming. If anyone in the comments, if you knew right away that that was General Shaw as a child, please let me know in the comments below. Just write MVP. And once again, the show really wants us to know, just like the movies did, that those that leave the area of Derry, their memories slowly fade to the point where they actually forget all about their childhood. General Shaw completely forgot about it.
I doubt you even remembered my name.
I didn't. Not until this week.
So I really like what they did with these two characters. It is top tier writing because you have taken two people that we saw in earlier episodes that seem to have no connective tissue whatsoever. And surprise, surprise, they actually did. And now General Shaw is back commanding the dig site around the Derry area. But what brings him in contact with Rose is the cease and desist letter that she wrote and submitted that he gets and that she brought up at the tribal meeting earlier. It just seems it's so earned. This meeting right here is so well earned. And I love the interaction that they both have. And he even admits that like he completely forgot who she was. So with regard to people forgetting their experiences in Derry if they leave the Derry area, what do you guys think? Do you think that is Pennywise slash it slash the entity's abilities, just kind of a passive ability that it has, malevolent corruptive forces? You leave the region and then you just forget that it exists so that you don't go tell the outside world and then they quarantine it? Or do you think it's possibly tied to something that maybe Rose's tribe did at some point in history that causes amnesia to subsume an individual after they leave the region? We have seen that one of its passive abilities is to create just kind of malevolent intent within people. It makes people mean. It makes people ignore cruelty. So it's possible that it could also make people forget about their experiences once they leave the Derry area. I don't see why someone couldn't just call a friend on a phone. Hey, Trevor. Yeah, what's up? Oh, nothing, man. Hey, do you guys have like a creepy sewer clown in your town that eats children? No, man, that's weird. I think no, God, no. I didn't think so. All right, cool.
It's like seeing things without seeing things. Sound crazy, right?
Place I grew up, everybody knew someone who knew someone that was like that.
So I'm liking the discussion that Dick Hallorann and Major Hanlon have going on here. Major Hanlon has confirmed that, yeah, he has heard of someone who knew someone that has Hallorann's abilities, but he's never encountered it for himself. And we know from Dr. Sleep that there are more psychic people out there. Okay, so we have confirmation that Dick Hallorann was in the room, which makes sense. Now that we know the full extent of his abilities, yeah, General Shaw would want him there in order to read Mike Hanlon's thoughts at the time. When I was watching episode 2, and General Shaw was talking to Major Hanlon, telling him that he truly is a man without fear, I thought it was just because the guys in the room report back to him that, yeah, we pointed a gun to his face, and he was pretty chill, boss. But no, he had an actual psychic read his thoughts and found that Major Hanlon cannot be spooked. He's got no fear whatsoever within him. He is completely 100% analytical. So my guess is the other two guys in the room were actually General Shaw and Colonel Fuller. And I think Colonel Fuller might have been the one that hit him with a pipe and pulled the gun on him. Colonel Fuller did fight in Korea. It's one of his medals. He was there. He would be more than familiar with the weapon at hand. And also, General Shaw, Colonel Fuller, Dick Hallorann seem to be the only people that have full knowledge about what it is that the military is doing there in Derry and what they're looking for, which makes sense that General Shaw would want to keep that compartmentalized. If a general started telling the Joint Chiefs, I'm going to be using resources to track down an ancient fear weapon, they might pull his rank and force him to retire. It sounds zany. That being said, there was also a German military from the 1930s, early 40s, that also had an arm, a wing of the military that was looking into occult stuff to try to win that war. There's also the Thule Society. Feel free to look into them if you want. So I am guessing that General Shaw is keeping this very close to the vest, and that most people out there at the dig site believe that they are trying to lay down whatever he said to Rose, water lines or something. Foreshadowing and bad CGI. So after an unenthusiastic chase scene with a goosebump-like ghost, we have this happen. So instead of just running for his life, Will's scientific curiosity gets the better of him and he decides to walk into this crypt. Why? This is one of those moments where it felt forced. It felt that the script needed him to go in there to get this photo. Why not just make it happen while he's in the crypt? Why couldn't you have him walk around the crypt, hear some creepy stuff, the hand pops out, he takes the picture, there's a gasp, the kids are waiting for him, you don't know if he made it. It felt really forced to have him turn around and go back in after he was chased by literal ghosts and goblins, raised from the dead or possibly projected from the dead. He went back in because the plot needed him to go back in, and there wasn't any way to make that happen naturally. Will's alive, meets up with his friends, and they vominos out of there to go to the school to develop the photos. Okay, so the kids are able to develop the photos, and son of a gun, they got them. They caught stuff on film. So light was able to bounce off of solid objects and get picked up on film. These were not illusions unless what the kids were looking at in the photos was the illusion. They're still within its sphere of influence. It could easily be showing them what they want to see just to mess with them so that they could go to adults, show them blank photos. I think that's how it's going to pan out. They're going to show photos to some adults and either get completely dismissed, or adults are going to look at the photos and just not see anything on them. Totally want to do a episode where we go over the abilities of what Pennywise/it can do, because did it raise people from the dead and then just put them back in the graves all limity-pimmity? Was this a type of reality manipulation that it can do? This thing's basically a god or Professor X, or it's Legion. It's goddamn Legion from the X-Men. It can do whatever it wants. So then we get the final photo, which they call out. It looks like a clown, but it doesn't really look like the Pennywise that we know. Kind of, sort of, not really. A little bit more gaunt. The hair's a little bit off. It almost looks more like the girl clown at the beginning. So maybe we're going to see a different version of Pennywise. Maybe we get introduced to one of its offspring. I hope that we get a different version of Pennywise, and that this season kind of shapes him into what we know him as in the later chapters. Let me know your comments down below if you think we're going to get a carbon copy Pennywise the Dancing Clown that we've seen in It Chapter 1 and 2, or if we're going to get something different. So This was an interesting episode for me. I did like it for the most part. I wasn't in love with the CGI. It took me out of the immersive experience, and I suddenly realized I was watching a show, like a CW show or Goosebumps. Don't get me wrong, Goosebumps is great. However, I think that they used a big chunk of that CGI budget for episode 1 and 2 to really reel us in. There might have been other ways to do some of the scenes that they had to make it more effective, maybe less corny CGI. Still, really cool. I love that we live in a day and age that we can get something like this. The other thing that I have an issue with is I did like the character development and the setup for future episodes, but maybe there was too much setup for future episodes. Episode 3 really feels like overly connective piece between the first couple of episodes and what's going to pan out later. Again, I'm not going to judge an entire piece of content based off of a few episodes. I really wait till the whole thing comes out. So, out of the first 3 episodes, this one to me felt like the weakest. And I don't mean that to bash the show. It's still a great episode in terms of writing. I'm really just comparing excellent and awesome work to other excellent and awesome work. And this one's slightly less great on the scale of things. And something new I want to do is the comment of the week, and I'm going to give it to Jen, the teacher, over in our Discord. If you're not in our Discord, please hop on in. It's a great place to talk and discuss theories and meet other Scene Invaders. Can't wait to see you join us. Jen, the teacher, says, I can't wait to see Mobster Pennywise with a Tommy gun firing at people. Congratulations, Jen, you are the comment of the week. With all that being said, I am really excited to see where the next few episodes go. I have so many questions, and I'm sure you have so many questions as well. So please drop those questions, those theories, those comments down below. I want to keep compiling more of them and eventually do a theory video addressing all your guys' comments and questions. And thanks for watching, and please come back again next week. Take care.